Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. I'm Emma Harris, Chief of Glow London and founder of the Slow the Fuck Down movement. In May 22, I had a completely out of the blue cardiac arrest and beat odds of 96-4, surviving unscathed. Since then, I've been committed to sharing the perspective I'm now blessed with, that many of us are wasting the precious time we have on this planet with unsustainable pace and stress. In each episode, I'll welcome some fabulous guests onto the show to share their stories of how slowing down or not has affected their lives, their teams, and their businesses. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast. Today I'm very excited. I have two absolutely brilliant women joining me, Laurie Meakin and Carly Avener. Laurie is an award-winning strategist, author of Amazon bestseller No More Enemies, and planning partner at Adam and Eve TWA. She helps leaders and teams see past gender myths, cut through the noise, and unlock creativity and competitive edge without all the usual bullshit. Carly is CEO of Leo Burnett, the first woman to lead the company in its 50-year history, amazing, and the driving force behind its recent creative and commercial resurgence. She's landed iconic brands, built a fiercely positive people-first culture, and proved that you do not have to be ruthless to run the show. So many people could learn from you, Carly. Welcome, Laurie and Carly. Very excited. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Oh, well, we always start with the first question, which is about the madness of the world that we're in. I mean, it's just like this crazy shit show where you couldn't really make it up. We thought COVID was bad, but now we're in a new reality. How do you think we've got here, Laurie? I'll ask you first.
I mean, there's so many things that are happening sort of at a geopolitical level, an interpersonal level, economic level. I'm not going to focus on those so much because I think a lot of us have talked about them before. The things that I want to focus on is just to focus on women in particular, because all of that stuff that's going on that's making us more stressed, more tired, more busy is exacerbated for most women. Now, when I talk about the data around women, there are always people who say, no, but my husband's not like that, or my family's not like that. There are always exceptions. There are overlapping distributions. But on general, all of the busyness, tiredness, stress, anxiety that we are all suffering is exacerbated for women because women are doing more. So the average woman does 2.5 hours more unpaid domestic labour every day versus the man in her life.
Just 2.5 hours.
Just 2.5 hours every day. And even in relationships where the man doesn't work, the woman still tends to do more of the domestic labour. And fascinatingly, more highly paid women, when the woman earns more than the man, she tends to do even more as a kind of compensatory thing. Wow. So we have less time. There's also, that's before you even get into the kind of cognitive labour, the emotional labour, the stuff that in business would be called kind of strategy and leadership and is called worrying or making a fuss in the domestic world. Women just do so much more of that. And then even in the workplace, if we want to tackle any of these kind of inequalities, it tends to be women who do that additional labour in their spare time, of which we have so much. So there's a lot going on for all of us, but I think it's just worth recognising that for women, there is so much more on our plate. And then we beat ourselves up about not doing enough and not performing well enough. And we wonder why we're exhausted.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, because that description obviously does cover a lot of people, but there are a lot of women who are single, who don't have kids, who are still running that engine. So it's not even just about your domestic setup, is it? It's taking on that stuff at work as well.
Absolutely. And all of this stuff, like a lot of that research is centered on families, but there are, women who have caring responsibilities that's about other people in their lives. Yeah. That tends to fall more to women as well. And even just in friendship groups and in society and at work, that taking responsibility for the really important labour that is unpaid and undervalued just disproportionately falls to women, and then tends not, because it's not valued, it feels there's that double kind of frustration of like, I'm doing something that's important, but it's not deemed to be important. And that's something that women, since we've been sort of making great gains in the workplace, that's an amazing thing, but there hasn't been that sort of equilibrium of the like balance of the recognition of all of the domestic labour and the emotional labour that women still tend to take on, that men can actually do and do brilliantly, but we tend not to encourage them to do it, and we don't reward them for doing it.
I'm going to take a deep breath after listening to that, because I'm 6 weeks into a 9-week solo parenting stint, and yes, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think the recognition thing is the big thing. It's all okay as long as it's when it's not recognised that it's hard.
Yeah.
Carly,
how to follow that?
How do you think we've got here?
Yeah, look, everything Laurie said really resonates with me in terms of my own experience, but also of the women in my organisation, the load that I see them carry both in the workplace and outside. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I guess maybe if I take more of a personal approach about how I think I've got here in terms of, the craziness and the pace at which we work, I think technology for me, if I was to boil it down to one thing, is the thing that has just removed any boundary whatsoever. And it's also holds up this kind of perfect life that other people are living professionally and personally the whole time.
Which is bollocks.
Exactly. So I think for me, that is the one thing. And then we haven't been educated or trained on how to put the boundaries in. And that's, I think, the thing. We used to have a physical place called work that we could leave, and we had to leave it all behind. We just don't have that anymore. So how do we help people put the boundaries in, know how to put them in, feel empowered to put them in? I think that's an unresolved question for lots of people. So that would be my view on it.
I, as the eternal optimist, always, I do have a theory, which I've been talking about for some time, which is if you go back to when we were young, you'd smoke in an office, right? You'd smoke in a bar, you'd smoke in a restaurant. Seems ridiculous now. My dad used to just write "I love you" in cigarette smoke when he put me to bed.
Oh, the romance.
You remember that? I mean, unbelievable. And there weren't those boundaries, and now they are. And I do believe that some of the habits we have today, I hope when our kids are grown up, it'll be the same as smoking inside. People will be like, oh my God, do you remember we used to have our phones at dinner, or whatever it is?
Yes.
I have faith that those boundaries, that, human behavior will change that. And there's stuff coming in with the laws around social media for under
and
16.
the dumb phones that kids
are
kids now have. And I know I have some friends who have a dumb phone themselves because they cannot resist the pull of social media and the smartphone.
Even the name.
Yeah.
Dumb phone. Yeah, I'm gonna sell that to my 13-year-old. Good luck with that. And how are you guys doing amongst the madness? Laurie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm an eternal optimist as well. And I just again, a lot of the work that I do and my particular kind of expertise is around gender inclusion and building a more gender equal world that benefits all of us. That's my thing. And on that regard, it's a shit show out there. It's absolutely disastrous, from kind of strongman politics kind of fucking us at a global level through to, the polarization, talking about technology, the polarization and the antagonism that social media algorithms are driving, or rather the people who write social media algorithms are driving, because they don't write themselves. There's so much that is absolutely disastrous out there, and it's getting worse. But I always look for the positives, and I'm like, at least we know about stuff now. We're starting to have some more conversations. And also personally, I'm starting to try and do something about it. And I've with good people around me, people who work together with me. Thank you for having me on and to be able to spread the word a little more. But yeah, that's what makes me good. It doesn't matter how dark things are. If we know what we're fighting and we do it together, there's that gives me strength.
Love that. And you're absolutely welcome. This is the work you do is so important. I'm absolutely always wanted to get you on the show. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Carly, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I think to that point about boundaries, I feel and believe that I have agency and I have control over my life. So that enables me to put the boundaries in when I need them, to switch my phone off, to take the time for myself when I need it. So I feel that I have a semblance of control. But I do know that not everyone feels that. And I'm in a super privileged position to be able to do that. And I don't always do it. I just don't. I don't always put the phone away when I should. I don't always put the boundaries in. But, you know, I live and learn.
And also when you, sorry, Laurie, when you put the phone away, you've got a kid to look after. So it's not like you're then sitting back.
No,
you know.
but that I know is the thing that I don't necessarily, you know, I can't contain. And children have their own view on when they need things. But the work thing, on the whole, I feel I have enough agency on, and enough of a team and enough support and enough people around me that I can tap out when I need to.
Brilliant. Laurie.
And I was just going to say that's so important as well, to, as the leader of that company, for you to be modelling that. I think has just a disproportionate power, and enables other people to put boundaries in place and to keep them in a way that it just wouldn't if you didn't have somebody so actively talking about that and living that.
So important to role model. We're going to come back to that actually. But for now, I just wanted to ask, is there a time, and Laurie, I know the answer to this, but is there a time when you haven't remembered to slow down, and if you could share that?
There is. We're going to trigger warning that I'm just going to be talking a little bit about sexual assault and rape. So yeah, there was a time I was raped as a young woman. I'd not long left school, and it was a dark evening, about 7:00. I was walking along the street, and I did that classic thing where, you know, when someone walks towards you and you just feel a bit uncomfortable and your kind of spidey senses are going. But me being the classic people pleaser, I was like, I'm not going to cross the road because that might antagonize him if he is a bit aggressive, or make me look like I'm, you know, just one of those girls who just kind of accuses or gets paranoid or whatever. So I was just like, I'll just keep on going. And then he came up to me, asked me the time. And again, I was like, I want to just say sorry, no, and carry on walking, but I didn't. Looked at my watch, because it was before phones. And that's what allowed him to kind of grab my hand and drag me into a dark sort of alleyway, etc. He threatened to kill me as well, but I did manage to get away just by sort of keeping him calm, staying alive for long enough that someone was walking their dog. They disturbed what was happening, and he let me go, which was, I'm, you know, eternally thankful for that happening. But for 20 years, I didn't talk about it. I didn't think about it very much. I did that kind of way of coping, which is like pretend it didn't happen and be resilient. And anyone who did know about it, they would praise the fact that you could never tell. They were like, oh, you'd never believe that of you because you seem so together. So I would hear that, like, well, being together is how to cope. And I knew, you know, the kind of language, like, I'm not a victim of rape, I'm a survivor of rape. And I felt really proud about being a survivor. And so I just kind of blanked it out, didn't talk about it, often didn't talk about it to other people because I knew it made them uncomfortable. And again, I'm such a people-pleasing girly that I'm like, I don't want to make anybody feel upset or feel angry, or so I just kind of pushed it all down and carried on. And it was the murder of Sarah Everard that kind of brought it all back up for me again, because we had a lot of time to think in COVID. My daughters by that point were a similar age to the age that I was when it happened to me. And I would look at all the data and, like, the police, the institutional misogyny and the enablement of this kind of behaviour. And I just thought, I expected things to have been better by now. And actually, they're not any better. If anything, they're getting worse. It's going backwards. And I just had this moment where I was like, do you know what? Fuck it. I just want to do something about it and use whatever skills and agency I have to try and make a difference. And I'd read Laura Bates' Everyday Sexism and sort of realized that was an amazing moment where I realized these are not like rogue anomalies that happen. It's not like a bad apple over here and a wrong and over there. And it's a systemic, endemic thing. And it's all connected. What happens, you know, the way we bring up boys versus girls, the way our political, social systems, the way work happens, the way we think about family, all of these things create a kind of web that enables the people at the worst extremes to do terrible things, but all of it is connected, and we could live a much happier, safer, more fulfilling life if we addressed it, because all of this stuff impacts boys as well. It's not just about violence against women and girls. It's violence that is perpetuated by a small minority of men, but it is almost always men, against all of us. And men are even damaging themselves. Like, men's harm against themselves is just terrifying as well. So I was just like, I have to understand what's really going on, and I have to do something about it. And it sounds like a ridiculous moment of realization I had, where I was like, I'm a strategist by background. I know how to solve problems, and I do it by understanding what the problem is, understanding what it is that people actually want and care about in their lives, and then trying to kind of hack those two together to give people more of what they want in a way that solves the problem. And I was like, well, that worked for like M&S chocolate puddings, and it worked for Amazon Prime subscription. Maybe that'll work for gender equality. So I set out on a 2-year research project to try and do it. And that's what I've been doing ever since, trying to engage men as well as women, queer folk, non-binary people across all intersectionalities to kind of go, we can build a world that works better for all of us if we work together.
Wow. Laurie for Prime Minister. I mean,
100%.
amazing. I mean, obviously, as someone else who had a moment in their life and turned that into a cause and a moment, I absolutely, I'm sure, like me, I didn't feel like I had a choice. When you have those moments, you just go, that's it. That's why I had to experience that.
Yeah.
That's why I was saved.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
And it's such an amazing book and such an amazing piece of research. And Laurie and I have worked together, and I've taken so much of that learning and those principles into not just the organisation, but into my life and my sort of outlook on things. For anyone that hasn't read it, please buy it on Amazon.
Thank you. Well, I think it also, a lot of the research that I did explains what makes people I think are brilliant. I've instinctively thought are brilliant. And if I can spare your blushes, your leadership style, the way that you approach life, so much of what you do and who you are, and you too, is the data is there about, yes, that's what makes effective leaders and high performing teams and a brilliant society, more leaders like you. So it helps explain what works brilliantly, as well as identifying
and
the
plug
issues.
the book, the name of the book.
It's called No More Menemies.
No More Menemies, yes.
Yeah, getting beyond
no
the fear and frustration
Buy it now.
of the gender
Buy it now.
wars.
Brilliant.
Exclusively on Amazon.
Carly, back to you.
Yes.
Just, has there been a time when you haven't remembered to slow down? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think I'm quite swanny, you know, like, I'm very calm above the surface, and I think probably similarly, obviously not in quite the same way, but people pleaser, just sort of keep smiling and saying everything's fine, and actually not even being connected to what was really going on. And for me, that manifested through anxiety and insomnia, which became debilitating at times. And I think that's because I was internalizing everything and just absorbing all the pressure and the stress and not asking for help, and thinking it was all me not being able to cope. And then realizing, actually, no, I've not been supported in this situation. I haven't got support above me or below me. Why? No one would be able to cope in this. So I think realizing that it's not always on me.
Yeah.
And to ask for help,
right,
driven by a point of crisis where I wasn't functioning very well, quite a long time ago in my career. But I remember phoning the HR person going, I haven't slept all night and I feel really stressed and anxious and I don't know what to do. Thankfully working for a brilliant employer who got me some coaching and went, oh my God, you're not supported at all. Let's put some structure in place. And through that experience of having that coaching and realizing that it wasn't all on me to solve everything, that really helped me to kind of, I guess, slow down in that sense and ask for help and not take it all on my own shoulders.
And you're not alone. I mean, you know, this is the research, isn't it? Women do think they've got to do everything, and it's part of sort of the imposter syndrome voice
Oh,
that
definitely.
is ridiculous, because it says you should be
Yes.
able to do it all and know everything and never ask for
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
And
Don't
if
show
I
any
can't,
weakness.
if I
Yes.
can't do it, I'm
Yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah.
So even that moment of going, actually, I need help here, that's really brave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone listening who's thinking, fuck, I think I'm where Carly was, please, please, please ask for help. And I hope you've got a great HR person like Carly did.
And it's so easy to look round at other people. And again, you know, the kind of
Totally.
Instagram factor kind
Yeah.
of exacerbates this, or LinkedIn. It looks like everybody else is doing brilliantly, because lots of us are brilliant at swanning.
Yes.
We glide through and we hide the chaos.
Yes.
And so we all think, well, everyone else seems to be coping.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
I'm not coping, it must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your reputation of a leader is of being incredibly calm,
Yeah.
but also you've shared your vulnerability, and that is so
Definitely.
powerful.
I think that's really, I've been so surprised at how powerful that actually has been, and how many, whenever I talk about imposter syndrome, asking for help, feeling like I couldn't cope, having insomnia, the amount of people that reach out to me, people I know, people I don't know, saying thank you for sharing that conversation. I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
And more people, especially senior people, need to talk about this. So yeah.
Absolutely. For someone who is, got one of the biggest jobs in advertising, to be able to do that, then everyone knows it's normal. And that's the thing. It's having the conversation. Some of the guests that have come on here, when I've said, how did we get here? I've said, we've always been here. But the good thing is now, at least we're talking about it, which is a good thing. I do think the technology has made it, exacerbated it, because it's also combated with this picture of perfect that we're bombarded with as well. But yes, thank you for your vulnerability.
Okay.
Your leadership is something that is incredibly admired across the industry. You are seen as, both driving the culture, driving growth, but also really caring about your people first culture. How do you do both those things? Because everyone listen, because it's really hard.
I really like to connect with people on a human level. So I think maybe I see the organisation at a macro level as a kind of system and a process with a goal and an outcome. But I do understand that that is driven by individuals and teams, and you have to connect with people at that level in order to kind of make the system work. I don't know if that sounds a bit abstract.
No, it's so important, because people forget.
Yeah.
Because if you often ask a lot of leaders, what are you trying to achieve? It's the number.
Yeah.
It's the number. They forget the number's not going to be delivered without the people.
No, we're just a collection of people
Yeah.
with some very loose structure. And the job of a leader, I think, is to, how do you give the people a vision, enable them to kind of deliver on that vision, make sure it's clear, make sure it's consistent, and make sure you're understanding why they're maybe not able to perform in a certain way, or what needs to be removed in order to help them thrive. That's the bit that I love the most, that kind of unlocking that human performance and potential, and not just in work, but I think it's always connected to a more personal piece as well.
It's so true. I was saying actually earlier, we're always trying to, it's really hard to actually define what Glow does. Like, are we change? Are we brand and culture? And I was saying, I think what we should be called is unstuck. We help you get unstuck. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly that. Often it's just getting people to get out of their own way, isn't it? And recognizing the power they have and the agency they have, which is what you said, having agency in the agency. I'm totally written that down. Carly gives you agency in the agency. Love it. Laurie, you work with leaders. At the moment, everyone's rushing. I mean, honestly, it's exhausting just, stepping into some of my clients. I'm exhausted the minute I get in there. What are the blind spots around gender that people miss when they're rushing, particularly?
So I think there's there's many, but I think one of the ones that I find most fascinating, especially in kind of corporate and creative cultures, is the kind of idea we have of what leadership looks like and what high performance culture looks like. And this is something that's kind of grown up over hundreds of years. It was like created by the public schools and the empire. This idea that it's like the Hunger Games model of success.
Horrible.
There's like, society is a pyramid. It's whether it's politics, whether it's corporations, whether it's teams. It's like you need an alpha, you're in competition with each other, you're kind of working, you're in it together, but your job is to be the alpha, and that's what success looks like. And you have to like kill the competition, you have to fight, you have to have like, you know, be ballsy and be tough. And there's this whole sort of militaristic, aggressive language that's about fighting other people, but also fighting within to get your way to the top of the pyramid, because that's the position that has the most power. And it's kind of aggressive and it's antagonistic. And that's what's heroicized. And when you start to notice it, you see it everywhere, just even in like the language that we use, the way we think about things, the metaphors that we use, the structures that we have. And we're told that that's natural, right? And I would just talk to so many people where they're like, yeah, but you can say all that stuff about more collaboration, but like we're basically apes and chimps have an alpha and blah, 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 blah. I was fascinated to learn a couple of things. So one about the natural world and one, some data about what makes great leadership. So in the natural world, I didn't know that bonobos existed until a few years ago. They're an ape that we also share 99% of our DNA with. And they do not live in that sort of Hunger Games model of culture. They live in a way that is much more collaborative. It tends to have women as well, the kind of female will tend to be dominant just as much as the guys are. They will still fight when they need to, but they also bring kind of external people in. They'll like take care of each other's babies and they'll midwife each other, and they kind of decide who's best at what, and they kind of work out how does everyone work together. That's just as natural as a kind of system, performance system, as the kind of Hunger Games model. But we've never been taught that. I never was anyway. I don't know if
I learned that from you.
Yeah. And it sort of suddenly makes sense. And when you look at things like high performing sports teams, you can go, you know, there are so much of that high performance leadership stuff actually recognizes this. And you can see that when teams don't run on fear, they run on trust and collaboration and helping each other, it really works. Then there's another bit of data that's, there's a guy called Thomas Chameroy-Premuzic, who I absolutely love. He's looked at what is it that makes most effective leaders. What are the qualities that make most effective leaders? And it's really clear there are things like emotional intelligence, vulnerability, coachability, the ability. I find coachability fascinating. It's that kind of thing that we're often told we don't have enough confidence, and actually coachability says that little voice that goes, maybe I'm wrong, is a brilliant, powerful thing, because just about every fuck up in the history of the world has been preceded by someone having way more confidence than they do competence and messing things up. So when you really look at what makes great leaders, it's fascinating, very different to what we've all been taught great leadership and effective cultures look like. And the other bit of data that I love that's really fascinating and helpful, I think, is that if you recruited on the basis of those things right now and promoted on the basis of those qualities, 70% of our leaders would be women, because women tend to over-index in that stuff because of the way we're socialized. Now I go, what's really important is that 30% would be men. Men can have these qualities as well. They're feminine coded, but they're not exclusive to women. And I think if we just start recognizing that those are the qualities that make the most effective leadership and performance cultures, and we recruited for those, we promoted for those, we rewarded those, we'd have so much better performance, and we'd get beyond a lot of this kind of frustration about women being promoted, men going, I'm never going to get another promotion, women are taking my job, and all that kind of antagonistic.
I roll in case the camera missed that.
Yeah.
I roll.
Yeah. But it's like we can get past all of that by going, these are the qualities of most effective leadership. Actually, women are really good often on average at this. Men can be brilliant as well, but we need to actively teach that and value it and reward it.
And I can't remember the data, but it's something like women-led businesses are, you know.
Oh, they're significant. There's all kinds of data. So the McKinsey one, I think they're kind of more likely to be in the top quartile.
Yeah.
There's, when you look at kind of return on investment, return on equity, they tend to grow faster. They tend to be more profitable. They tend to get a better return on equity. And yet they're kind of underfunded and underinvested by a
Underinvested,
massive degree.
I mean,
Oh.
the statistics around investment for female-founded businesses
It's
is
a pound. It's
shocking.
a penny in every pound.
Yeah.
1%
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
goes to female-led
Yeah.
businesses.
Which
Yet they are more ethical, better employee engagement, low, higher retention rates. I mean, just
Yeah. Shout out to my female-founded friends business called Fleur, which is this top.
Oh, is
wearing.
it?
Yes.
Fleur, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Look it up. I just want to come back to some of the stuff. You said so many brilliant things. Drew Povey is another guest that we've had on the podcast, talks about the importance of leaders sitting with the I don't know, because one of that imposter syndrome behaviours is, I have to know the answer. And especially people think leadership means that you have to know more than your team. And I'm constantly talking to our clients about the fact that having a talented people around you who know more than you makes you a great leader. As a CEO, you can't know more than your CFO, but often lower levels think they've got to know more than their team. And that's just sitting in I don't know means you're curious. It means you're open. It means you're listening.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
But people think, I've got to know the answer. And also that language. I was in a meeting this week and someone talked about his resistance for going for I can't remember, I think it was going for a promotion or asking for something, and he used the language, putting my head above the parapet. And I literally took a sharp intake of breath, and you hear that all the time.
All the time.
But you think actually you think you're going to get shot. That's about being in the trenches in the war.
Yeah.
We normalize that kind of language. Absolutely. I've suddenly started having a bit of a lens, a bit of a radar for that kind of let's pick our battles, all these sort of things.
Yeah. And there's all really interesting research where academics have looked at what the impact of that is on the culture. And it's so pervasive and powerful. As we know the power of communications and semiotics and, the language that we use and the imagery that we use is so powerful. And, I think just rethinking some of that would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think your point about being comfortable with saying, I don't know, for me was really interesting because I became MD. I joined Leo's 6 months before COVID. And in a way, that was a brilliant opportunity. No one knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So my imposter syndrome was sort of diluted in a way because everyone was in it together, from the most senior to the most junior. And to a degree, I think the AI revolution that we're all going through is a similar moment in time where, frankly, the more junior people know way more about this technology and are using it in a way more native way than I am. And I love that. I love, the combination of lived experience of maybe the more timeless human or business situations coupled with people who are way more native around this technology. I think if you can harness the two, it's a really exciting time to be a leader.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that's happened.
Exactly.
Because when has there ever been a situation in history where the youth or the younger, less experienced are ahead in terms of knowledge and understanding on something?
Yeah.
Because they've never been able to.
No.
But technology, they are.
Yeah.
So that's something we always talk to leaders about is you can't just look up. You've got to look down. You've got to listen and be open.
We just commissioned last year a proprietary piece of research around Gen Z, and the conclusion, in a nutshell, was they are the nation's influencer because they have grown up in this kind of digital world. They are advising their families on not just the latest music, fashion, but where to bank, what to do with your pensions, how to invest, where to go on holiday, like big ticket items that traditionally would have been top down. The sort of rules of influence are really changing. And that was, the first time in a generation that's really happened.
In the same way as some of our parents or grandparents were sort of war generation, we're the last generation who remember life before the internet.
Yes.
And that shift, we're going to be in the history, we will be, I don't know, they'll probably come up with some name for an analog, the last analog generation before it all changed. Fascinating. Laurie, we've talked about, I did an eye roll before.
Yeah.
And I there's so many things about the gender conversations that make what's the one that makes your eye roll the most?
I think the one that I've come to talk about quite a lot is around actually something that we all do much more than we realise. Women do it as well. And when I kind of looked at the data, I was a bit shocked, and I had to really look at myself quite a lot, which is we all value, again, when I say all, we are all more likely to value masculine coded things more than feminine coded. Right? As a society, we all do it. And I kind of go, God, yeah, I used to be so proud of being a tomboy. I was just like, I'm not like other girls. I'll kind of drink pints and I'll dress like a guy. And I did a whole load of that, like 80s ladette, 90s ladette kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only when I I knew when I had girls that I started to think actually being a woman isn't that bad. And I'd have kind of people go, oh, have you had a son yet? And like be really disappointed at the fact that I had daughters, that just started making me kind of go, hang on a minute, there's something weird.
Have you had a son yet?
Yeah. And they were just like, oh, never mind, mate, maybe next time.
Wow.
And I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. But again, all the research that I did really uncovered some massive stuff that goes on. So you can see it really clearly when you look at what happens with young children. So parents of boys and parents of girls are very likely to encourage their girls to play with more masculine coded toys and do masculine coded activities. So you see it kind of really clearly, like when girls kind of play football and do tough stuff, and that's really kind of increasingly celebrated in our culture. But it doesn't happen the other way around. Parents of boys are much less likely to actively encourage their boys to play with feminine coded stuff. And there's a brilliant activist and writer called Liz Plank, she's American, and she talks about, it says something about our society when the average parent is more happy that their little boy plays with a gun than with a doll, which is kind of wild. Yeah. But and that's because we think that, well, of course, girls should want to be more like boys, but why would boys want to be more like girls? It just sort of doesn't make sense to us at a societal level, because we've been taught for centuries that the masculine is better. And you even see it when there's an American study that asked young boys, I think they were up to like 7, 8 years old, what's the best thing about being a boy? First thing was sport, but the second thing was not being a girl.
Wow.
And so much, like experts in the kind of gender area go, a lot of the project of like becoming a man is about not being girly. And we all know, kind of like a girly being used as an insult. Obviously, that intersects massively with kind of homophobia, etc. But then we see it kind of into our business culture and into everything we do, where, like when we look at work, so often we'll go, oh, cool stuff is seen to be the best. But actually kind of cute is hugely powerful. Like Japanese culture recognizes the power of cute. But a lot of the time in Western culture, we just don't, because the arbiters of what is valuable culturally often is more masculine coded stuff. And even when we look at sport, it's like the snowboarding, when they kind of do a million somersaults, it's like, that's cool, that's really valuable. But actually the ice skating is a bit girly, and it's just not seen as being kind of quite as powerful. And even the language we use, like strength, we understand in different ways. So there's this huge thing in society that's like, we value the masculine more than the feminine because of hundreds of years of conditioning. The thing that's fascinating about it is, from a commercial point of view, the stuff that women are into is massively undervalued. When men are exposed to it, they tend to actually really enjoy it. So like at the moment, men tend to read books and kind of social content, follow people, etc. That's almost exclusively, like 80 to 90% by men for men, whereas women's sort of menu and diet of content tends to be much more kind of gender balanced. But in studies where they've exposed men to the stuff that they're not watching and reading at the moment, they tend to really enjoy it. So there's a massive kind of missed opportunity there. But also, just to go back to some of those values we were talking about, nurturing, emotional intelligence, etc. A lot of the things that are really damaging men and boys, self-care, the ability to nurture, the ability to express emotions, take care of themselves, that is being kind of crushed out of them when they're very young boys, because that's how we don't expect boys to behave, because we don't think that's as valuable. And so it manifests in a million ways, but I think if there's one thing that we could all do as a society, it would be to start valuing feminine coded things as much as we value masculine coded things, and enable everyone to play across all of those.
I think that goes back to your very first point about why women are still shouldering the burden of the domestic world, because it's not feminine work and it's not valued. And for women to progress and to close the gender pay gap, we need men wanting to, and I think many of them do want to, embrace more of that than they do currently, to give them the value of the role in society and to just make it more balanced.
Yeah. And you see, there's really interesting data that says, as you say, a lot of more men want to do that than the number of men who are doing it. And when studies have asked them why not, they often worry what other people would think about
They
them.
don't have the role models. They don't have the male role models above them. And that's, I think, what is so needed.
I'm as a mother of two boys, I'm thinking, do I do this too? I don't think I do. My little one is very comfortable talking about he likes dresses and things like that, and we're all about making him feel okay about it, but it's such a tightrope, isn't it? I remember watching, I think it was a Channel 4 documentary, and they had these two nursery workers and they switched the clothes of the babies and just filmed the nursery workers, and the nursery workers instantly gave the little baby, you know, that 10-month-old baby, you know, the girl the doll and the boy the truck. And then afterwards they said, why did you give the truck to that baby? Oh, it's because it's a girl. Well, actually, that's the boy. We just switched the clothes. And the nursery workers were so shocked by themselves. Because they were asked before, do you encourage this? And they were like, no, we don't.
No, it's so deeply rooted and so kind of invisible to a lot of us. It's just, it takes a lot of work to turn it around. But as you say, there are some very simple things that we can do systemically and kind of personally. And I think encouraging men to share the domestic load would be make an absolutely huge difference, and would make all of that more valued.
Help them as well. So something that we've worked on a lot at Leo's is supporting working parents. And it started just with a conversation with a group of parents about what support they needed. And it was so interesting to hear how I think women have quite good support networks. We've got our parents, our sisters, our friends who have had children, gone back to work, and they've kind of worked out the system and how to make it work for them. Men don't talk about that with each other. They don't have the support, and just some really basic things. They were saying like, I really want to do pickup, but meetings always go in when I need to leave. And it's like, well, did you put in your diary that you're
blocked for pickup,
unavailable? Like, oh no, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And it's like giving them the permission, and it was like a penny drop moment for so many of them. Stuff that we find it easier to do because there is that conversation amongst women. Helping men to be part of that conversation has been a big part of the work that we do. I don't want to just help working mums. I want to help working parents, because that will ultimately help women close down the gender pay gap and make our society more equal and less gendered.
I love that.
I think looking at gay parents, the model of gay parents is such a beautiful model, because gender is taken out of the balance. So you go, what happens then is that a couple will go, okay, how do we navigate this? Who's good at what? Who's best for this? How do we negotiate and navigate all of that together? Fascinatingly as well, kids of gay parents, there's a study from Australia from a while ago, shows that they tend to be, even when you factor in the homophobia that they face, they tend to be happier, healthier, and kind of perform better, because kids in gender equal relationships and families tend to do better. So like, there's so much we can learn if we look in the right places, and I find all of that like really inspiring. And I love the fact that we are seeing more men actively enabling these conversations and supporting each other and encouraging each other to learn how to nurture and to parent in a way that works for them and that's like properly collaborative.
I love this and can't wait to play this episode to my husband. We can talk for hours. This is incredible. I do have one final question, which I ask everyone. Look, a lot of people say to me when they see me that have been listening, there's so much they get out of it. What's the one thing, Carly, you want to leave our audience with?
I think I'll go back to my very first point, which is about put your boundaries in. someone once said this to me, and it's really stayed with me, that work is just a process and a system, and it will just take. It's like a machine, and only you can put the boundary in. And I think that's true whatever level you're at, and you have to learn how to do that with the right communication. And it's not just a binary thing of my boundaries in, see you later. You know, you have to communicate and work as a team, but you have to take control, because work will just keep taking from you.
You are Carly for Prime Minister. Honestly,
I'll be deputy.
Yes,
right behind Laurie.
Imagine.
Yeah, oh my God,
We'll be
amazing.
co-ministers. Yeah.
Could we make you as presidents? Wow. Laurie, what's your final word?
My final word is thank you for all that wisdom. And I think I'm not good enough yet with boundaries. I'm one of those people who I get energy from doing, and I have to work really hard to kind of not use that as an excuse to just do too much. But I think my thing, again, thinking right back to the reason that you started doing what you're doing as well, I think for me, it's about finding the thing that gives you purpose. And that doesn't need to mean purpose with a capital P. It could just mean whatever just makes you feel energized and like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm doing something that gives me joy. And for every bit of energy I put in, I get more back. It kind of fills up my soul. If you can find that, it is absolutely invaluable. And I feel so proud and happy that it's taken me a long time to get there, but I've finally found that, and it just makes everything better, because however difficult things are, I found my purpose, found amazing people who kind of help me with it and support me, and that's absolutely priceless.
And thank God, because you're making the world a better place. So thank you for that.
And I think we all are together. Do you know what I mean? It's like each of us doing the stuff that we do, trying to do it in as positive a way we can, because that then lifts other people up and creates a bit of a legacy where we hope we're going to leave the people we touch, the teams we work with, the businesses we engage with a bit better than we found it. And that's, thank you both for doing that.
Great. Well, thank you. And I always say, and I know there's some privilege in this, but if you get that feeling on a Sunday night, that Monday morning's coming and it makes you feel sick and your affair makes you feel anxious, rethink. Because I tell you, take it from me, take it from Laurie, life is short. This is not a dress rehearsal. But thank you, Laurie and Carly. That was amazing. We could have gone on for hours. Thank you everyone for listening, and this has been Slow the Fuck Down. Thank you for listening to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. If you found this episode interesting and insightful, please help us spread the word by giving us a follow or sharing it with your friends. And if you feel inclined to give us a quick review, that would be awesome. Let's all do what we can to help the world slow the fuck down.